Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Allie. If you are not new here, welcome back. We are doing a little cozy weekend reading vlog. It is the last weekend of June, which is wild. I can't believe that we're going into July already. Happy summer to you. This weekend is a really exciting one in Long Island because we are welcoming a new brick and mortar independent bookstore, Latina owned independent bookstore in Belmore. This morning I went to visit the Wandering Page on their opening day. My friend Adriana on here. Adriana is Meet Me at the Bookery here on booktube and also on bookstagram. We visited the Wandering Page for their opening day. We then took a little drive over to Book Nook in Baldwin, which is a black owned bookstore, and I loved seeing the selection there. The store is so beautiful. I'll share with you what I bought. So let's get into it. Trying really hard not to buy books today, but going to bookstores, it's so challenging because I have 3 million tote bags, 3 million stickers. It's just, there are so many accessories that can be bookish where you're like, I already own a million of these. I was really tempted to get a sweatshirt at the Wandering Page, but I did not. So let me show you what I did get. This t-shirt. Like, one, I just love the frills. I feel like the frills are so dainty, so cute. Such a summer vibe. It says Meet Me at the Bookstore, and it has a picture of the storefront with Belmore, New York. And I also got a book. This book has been on my radar. I have not read anything by this author, but I went to the special edition section on the way to check out. I was just going to get the shirt. While I was waiting online, there is a section for special editions, which is very cute. I saw Enemies to Lovers, the Fairy Loot edition by Alicia Rai. Really wanted to get that, but I've already read it and I own the regular edition, so I did not pick that up. But I did get this book, which is Chip Pons's Dearly Departed. This came out, I believe, in the last few weeks, and this is the Love Story Society exclusive edition. The back says, "You were my full bloom long before I realized I'd been growing toward you." So Chip Pons is the author of Winging It With You, or Winging for You. I'll insert the cover here. Chip Pons is the author of a queer romance that came out last year, which I haven't got to read yet. But his second book, Dearly Departed, came out this month, and I really wanted to pick it up. And I love the regular cover. I'll insert a picture of the cover here. It's super cute. But then I saw this cover, and I was like, yeah, I have to get it. I have to get it. Front says, "Hope is a dangerous thing for gods." It's signed. I didn't even know that. That makes me even more happy that I bought it. The about the book is not on here, but I'm coming from memory. I believe that this book is about, it's a paranormal romance, but the character that is in real life human form, I believe, owns a floral shop. And this character, who is not in human form, comes back and visits him, and they fall in love. But, you know, there's probably another explanation to that. Let me look it up. Dearly Departed came out on June 16th, so it's, less than 2 weeks old. A Hades-inspired gay rom-com in which the former god of the underworld turned grumpy funeral director must find a loophole in the Immortality Retirement Act that banished him to Earth until the florist next door, who sees life in full bloom, begins to unravel all his carefully laid plans. That is such a good concept. Hayden is all restraint and shadows. Levi is the florist with an artist's heart. He's all sunshine and charm, but beneath the clash lies an undeniable spark neither can ignore. As their connection blossoms, Hayden finds himself caught between the life he once knew and the bright future Levi dares to imagine. But trusting Levi means risking the walls he kept in place all these years. And this has great reviews. It has like a 4.28 on Goodreads, so I'm excited. That's the book that I picked up. Let's open this up and see what's inside. Not me thinking that there was a surprise in here. I bought this sticker. It says Long Island Girls Love to Read, and I'm actually gifting it to my friend that is moving out of Long Island. So I'm going to put this back in here and give it to her just like this, along with something else that I'll get her. And those were all my purchases from the Wandering Page. If you are based on Long Island, definitely check them out. A Latina-owned mobile bookstore that is now a brick and mortar and will still be a mobile bookstore, and I'm sure you'll see them all over Long Island. But definitely recommend going to check out the physical store. I also forgot to mention that the Wandering Page was giving out liquid deaths. It is my first liquid death. I don't know if you've tried it, but I have never tried it. And this is the severed lime flavored sparkling water flavor. So I'm having some liquid death on ice because it is hot today. It's raining, but it's like humid. I'm not a fan. So the second store that we went to was Book Nook on Long Island. It is in Baldwin. It's a Black-owned bookstore, and it is amazing. Going inside, as soon as you walk in, there are like Kennedy Ryans and Jasmine Guillory and Christina Forrest and S.A. Cosby. It was just amazing. It was really cool to see, and I love how curated the selection is, and I think that it's something that Long Island needs, and I'm just really happy that the store exists on the island. So I bought 2 books, one that I've never heard of and one that has been on my radar. The first one is Honey by Imani Thompson. This one has been on my radar because it's like a horror and it sounds so good. The tagline is, "To kill and get away with it, what could be sweeter?" And I mean the cover. Come on. Yrsa is bored with her PhD program, her entitled students, and the never-ending pages of racial violence and feminist theory she has to read. But most of all, she's bored with the men in her life, especially the bad ones. And then, one sunny afternoon, she accidentally kills one. Suddenly, a problematic professor is dead, and Yrsa, well, she's no longer bored. Tell me if you've ever heard a book like this. This kind of sounds like Dexter. Imani Thompson is a British writer with Jamaican heritage, and she wrote Honey while working as a bookseller at Daunt Books in England, and is now working on her second novel. So, a debut from Imani Thompson, cover alone, you sold me. And then the second book I bought is a paranormal fantasy that is the first book in a series, and I picked up the second book and then realized it was in a series, and then saw that they had the first one, and that is The Secret World of Maggie Gray by Granger. This book is about the underground HBCU that had magic and history. So it says, Maggie Gray always dismissed her grandmother's tales as superstition, bedtime stories of vampiric priests, midnight covens, and secret conjurers from her youth during the civil rights era. Tell me more that I need to read this. Even Maggie's stark white hair felt nothing more than an inherited quirk. But when her grad school presentation retelling these stories catches the interest of her professor, she discovers the truth buried within them. He directs Maggie to Drew Collins University, a hidden HBCU beneath the streets of Atlanta where the legends come to life. At DCU, necromancy is a major. Students with claws and fangs roam the campus. Oh my God, this sounds so good. And Maggie leans on a new circle of unlikely allies. I'm already so caught in it. Distrust simmers between them, even as an undeniable pull grows harder to ignore. When a murder shatters the campus, suspicion lands on Maggie, not just because of what she is, but because of the family she comes from. In a world where legacy is everything, hers might be the deadliest of all. And this is published by Podium, and I think that I read in the Goodreads reviews that the audiobooks are really good. I'm going to look up the audiobook on Libby to see if I can borrow that while reading this. This sounds so good, and honestly might be my perfect summerween read. It is under 300 pages, so hello, say less. And Granger, I've never heard of Granger, but she's the author of The Secret World of Maggie Gray fantasy series. Known for her unorthodox approach to writing, she loves to blend culture, myth, and imagination through her stories and make her hometown of Atlanta come alive with magic. When she's not writing, readers can find her sitting in the open garage catching up on the latest neighborhood gossip. A girl in my own heart. So yes, I picked up the first book in the series, and I'm really excited to read that and hopefully get into a new series. I can always use a new paranormal fantasy series. This book I really picked up because it reminded me of an Arcane Inheritance, and I really loved like the dark academic setting of an Arcane Inheritance. I kind of talked about it on here where I wasn't like super happy with the execution, but I loved the thought behind it and like the setting, and I love a dark academia setting. So that's why I picked that one up. I now have 3 more books on my shelves, so I will be in touch with you as I read them, as always. But now we're rounding out the rest of the day, so I'm going to get on my couch, pick up The Misconnection. I have like less than 50 pages left, so I really want to get through that this week. I think the rest of the weekend holds some reading, relaxing, and then we'll see where the rest of the weekend goes. But until then, I'm glad you're here. here to update you on my current read. Don't mind the setting. We are currently in the parking lot of a record store, pre-dinner record shopping. But I'm currently reading The Misconnection by Tia Williams. This came out on June 9th. I'm a huge Tia Williams fan. I've read A Love Song for Ricky Wilde and Sundays in June? 7 days in June, and Audrey and Bash Are Just Friends, which is her YA book. I love Tia Williams. I love her writing style. I love her as a person. I love just her vibe. The banter in her books I feel like is unmatched. There is a lot of romance, and A Love Song for Ricky Wilde is like one of my all-time favorite books. It is so lyrical. There is a large theme of music in that one, so I just felt like I really enjoyed it. I think the musical theme in books is a highlight of a lot of like my favorite books. Anyways, so Misconnection is about our main character, Sasha Cruz. She goes on a flight, is flying to Europe for a Serafina, who seems to be a Sephora, a Serafina-like job. She's a casting director, so she got the job of casting for a Serafina commercial. She's flying to Europe and is seated next to Seat F. Seat F and her have a lovely time. They have this cute little meet cute where she's like, something happens and he's like helping her out, blah, blah, blah. They connect, they talk, they yap all flight long. And then before they can even exchange numbers, they're like whisked off in two different directions. So she learned enough about him, but she doesn't know his name, or she knows he lives in New York, but they don't know anything about each other that is identifiable. So then she comes back home. She is obviously gutted. She can't find this known love of her life now. So she recruits Wes, who is our male main character, and he is a prior detective turned food truck barbecue enthusiast. And you find out as we flash back to a few years prior that Wes was recruited from our main character Sasha when she was being victimized by a stalker. So they came together and like started this friendship during a really vulnerable time for our main character Sasha. It's very interesting to learn about Sasha and Wes's interactions in the previous lifetime and then flash back to current. I feel like the way Tia writes is just, I just really love it because it doesn't feel like you're doing a lot of the work, but it still feels like you're learning so much about them. And I love that. I just love that.
And the sun is really like giving me life right now. I'm a big fan.
So yeah, I am really enjoying that. We're flashing back and we also do male POV and female POV because everything that I like from what Sasha's saying, things that stick out to me, I'll tab in pink, and then the things that Wes has said that sticks out to me, I tab in blue. And this is also interesting because it's like we know that Wes is looking for Seat F, and we know that Sasha is pining and yearning for Seat F, and we're hoping that they get connected. But you're also kind of learning about Wes and how great of a influence he has been and is in Sasha's life. And that's making you want Sasha and Wes to get together. So it's very interesting. I'm loving it. I'm on page 230 something. And I think I have about, I thought I had 50 pages left, but I think I have about 100 pages left because it's 323. So yeah, I have about 100 pages left. I'm trying to savor it. I have been listening to the audiobook, but like, I want to savor it and love it because I don't know when we're going to get another Tia, and I just like love her book so much. So I hope to finish that this weekend. I'm really enjoying it. And after I finish this, I don't really know what I'm going to read. I might pick up a little novella. I have a few novella arcs of horror books that I picked up at a Macmillan event earlier this year that are coming out in July and August. So I might pick up one of those to just squeeze one more book into the month before June ends. But yeah, that is my reading update. Let me know if you guys are reading this book or interested in Tia. I can give some spoilerish thoughts in my reading wrap up. I just want to say that this rainbow is my third rainbow this month. And I think that means good things are coming. TBD. Good morning. I'm coming to you live from my backyard. This morning we're doing a little bit of an arts and crafts project over here. We have some storage space in the basement that we have to create shelves for so that we can be a bit more organized. And now we're coming up on 3 years being in this house, or 4 years. Oh my God, I think it's going to be our 4-year house anniversary, and we still don't have a proper storage space. So we are creating some shelving, and in order to do that, we have to paint them. So now you're going to watch us paint. Hello. I'm currently trying to figure out how to organize my closet. Doing this probably for the last hour. I just have so many summer clothes that I can't find space for in my closet. And I've been trying not to do the rotational winter summer thing. I just want to have the perfect amount of clothes where I can store all of my clothes in my closet for all the seasons so I don't have to do a rotational change. But I keep on coming back to this one bin that has winter clothes, and then I switch them out for summer clothes. And it's if I could just pare it down a little bit, I could probably get rid of the bin. Anyways, that is my rotational clothing spiel, which is a little bit late because it's July now. Girl, you should have done this 2 months ago. Anyways, those are my thoughts about my closet. Pre-closet, I've been catching up on my friend Meet Me at the Bookery. She has some vlogs that I haven't watched, so I've been watching those while cleaning up my closet. Now I'm gonna make some dinner, and then after that, I think I'm gonna do the mid-year Freakout tag, which I've been wanting to do, and July is coming up, and it seems like the perfect time to do it. So before we end, I'm gonna do that, but until then, let's go have some dinner. We are wrapping up our Sunday evening. I just applied my Summer Fridays lip butter balm in the flavor of vanilla beige. And this is the one that I keep on my desk. And it just reminds me of winter. I'm in my bag, I have the guava, pink guava one. And then I think I have a watermelon something one. This one smells delicious, but it literally makes me want a hot chocolate. So I need to stop using this one on my desk because it's girl, it's not winter, it's July. Get it together. I'm currently reading The Misconnection, as we've been talking about, and there was this one description of anxiety that I feel like I need to read to you. It was so perfect. I was listening to a chapter while I was washing the dishes, and I was I have to go get my physical copy because I've been having Tia's male and female POV with the blue and the pink. And then when I heard Sasha describe, our main character Sasha has been clear about suffering from anxiety disorder, anxiety attacks, and panic attacks. And the way she describes anxiety was so yeah, this is exactly how I feel. And I actually talked about this with my husband earlier this week about how anxiety feels like a dark cloud that you can't really, you see the logical approach to it, but it's as much as you want to logic through the anxiety that you're experiencing, it's really hard to feel like you can in the moment because it feels so freaking all encompassing. So let me find this blurb so I can read it to you. So backstory is a lot of what Sasha, our main character, is experiencing is anxiety due to a traumatic event of being stalked by, so she's a casting agent, and one of the actors that she rejected had been stalking her, and that's how she encountered Wes because he's a detective. So a lot of her anxiety has to do with agoraphobia, which is fear of going outside. And so she says, in fact, nothing had been stopping her lately. She'd left the house more times than she had in the past year. It was empowering. Earlier this morning, she took the train for the first time in a small lifetime. It wasn't that she was feeling less anxious, it's that she wasn't caring as much about it, which was the trick. Feelings of paranoia or agoraphobia light and fear were no surprise given her past trauma, and everyone felt panicky and weird sometimes. The difference between someone with an anxiety disorder and a quote-unquote normal person was that the normal person didn't let the fears take over. They felt them, noted them, and moved on with their lives. They didn't allow the demons to haunt them continuously, day in, day out. There was a liberating lack of obsession. So well said. So well said. And I think someone who has anxiety and reads that is yes, I feel seen. And that's exactly how I felt. And then 3 pages later, I'm not going to ruin anything, but it gets spicy. And I'm just like, only Tia could like perfectly describe a diagnosable mental illness. And then 3 pages later, make like the spiciest scene I've read in a minute. So kudos to Tia. Always kudos to Tia. I'm going to transition over to my bookshelf so that we can film our mid-year Freakout tag. And then it's Sunday, so we're going to watch Game of Thrones. House of Dragon is back. I don't know if you've heard. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, tell me in the comments below. But yeah, I'm going to film this mid-year Freakout tag. So let's scoot on over to my bookshelf. We're back. And yes, it is Monday. I will give you a little synopsis of what went down yesterday. I was in the middle of filming my mid-year book Freakout tag. And you know what? I did indeed freak out because as I was talking to you all about my 5-star reviews of 2026 so far, a little friend wanted to join us, and it was our friend in the form of a spider. I freaked out, had to recruit help. I did freak out and I wasn't in the mood to continue my tag to be really H. So I am now here in my bedroom. I've since worked all day in my office. I'm fine, but I wanted a little bit of a change of scenery. So before we wrap this up, I'm going to talk to you about my mid-year book freakout tag, and I assure you there will be no freakouts in this tag. So let's get into it. Okay. The first question is, what is the best book you've read so far? And I, of course, had to pull all of my 5-star reads from my bookshelf. These are not in chronological order, but the first one that I have is Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker. 5-star, hands down. This book was so good. If you are a horror person who enjoys dual timeline and dual POV, 1000% recommend picking this one up. If you're also just a Kylie Lee Baker fan and you haven't read this yet, you must, and you must read it before the end of the year because she has another horror book coming out in 2027. Anyways, must read. A new to me author is Yoshigane Sakura, and The Midnight Taxi was one of my first 5 stars of 2026. This is a cozy mystery, and it is perfect if you are a first generation or child of immigrant that lives in New York. It is like such a love story to New York. There is a cozy mystery in the thread of it, and I've since met Yosha 3 times, and I absolutely love her. She has a second book that is following this one that is set to come out. Can't wait to read it. And I can't talk about 5 stars without talking about Red City by Marie Lu. Obsessed. This was such a beautiful fantasy. There is a romance element to it. The writing was beautiful. I actually group buddy read this with a few of my other Bookstagram friends who aren't huge fantasy readers, and we all really enjoyed this. I absolutely love this copy from Book of the Month, and I got to meet Marie Lu at BookCon this year, which was really exciting because she was so super sweet, and I'm just really happy that I have found a new to me author, and I'm excited to continue this series. And then the next question that I have is, what is the best sequel you've read so far? I haven't read the other books in this series, but No Matter What by Cara Bastone is a 3rd book in the New York series. There is Ready or Not or Promise Me Sunshine, and I have not read either, but I do want to read one of those this summer, and I think it's going to be Promise Me Sunshine because the cover gives me all the summer vibes. But this book was a sequel. I actually went through my books and I haven't read any sequels this year, and that is wild. I really have to get back to my series and my backlist videos and just like maybe tackle some of the series that are on my never-ending physical TBR. So yes, No Matter What is a sequel. It doesn't matter that I didn't read the other books before it. I will, don't you worry. And then the third question that we have is, what is a new release you haven't read yet but want to? One I picked up last weekend, which is Pot Shop by Laura Piper Lee. This cover, so cute. My friend Una at Literally Moody on Bookstagram posted about this book, and I found out that it has Crohn's representation. And if you do not know, I do have Crohn's, which is an autoimmune disease, and I've never read a book where our main character has Crohn's. This one just seemed really interesting to me. It had great reviews. Una, my friend, loved it, so I wanted to read that. This was a recent release that I think came out in the last few months. And then another recent release that showed up at my doorstep thanks to Berkeley is The Summer Girlfriend by Christina Forrest. This book is the book of the summer because I've been seeing it everywhere, and it again has amazing reviews. I know absolutely nothing about what this is about, but the cover tells me that I need to read it within the next 6 weeks or immediately. And then our fourth question is, what are your most anticipated releases for the remainder of the year? And I have 3. My first being Just a Highland Fling by Nina Kumar. This comes out in July. My second is The Knave and the Moon by Rachel Gillig, which comes out on September 1st, and that is the sequel to The Night in the Moth. The cover is stunning. I cannot wait to read this. I absolutely loved The Night and the Moth. 5 stars. The third book that I'm really excited to read that comes out, I am lucky enough to have my hands on. This one comes out in September, and this is Our Cut of Salt by Dina Helm. This is a Palestinian American author. It is a horror with undertones of injustice, love, family love, the power of love, and survival. So I'm really excited to read this one. And the fifth question is, what is your biggest disappointment of the year so far? Sadly, it is Yesteryear by Carol Claire Burke. I have so many thoughts on this book, as I've said a million times. One of them being that this was such a disappointment for me. I really loved Carol Claire Burke's writing, but I felt that the ending was a bit of a cop-out, which I've said many times. I have a lot of spoilery thoughts about this, and I've always said I'm going to do a reel about them or a short about them, but I still like low-key but high-key like kind of want to reread it before I then unfold it. I feel like it's going to be too much and too heavy when I'm just trying to read all the summer romances and catch a vibe on the beach. This is not it. But yeah, my spoilery thoughts around this are just that I felt like this was the epitome of like a buzzy book that was made just for reaction, in my opinion. Tell me your thoughts if you've read it. And then the sixth question is, what is your biggest surprise of the year so far? And that is my lovely We Burn So Bright by TJ Klune. I absolutely loved this book. I think about it at least once a week. 5 stars. The audiobook was great. So if you're looking for a short audiobook to just pop in, follows a queer couple as they are facing the end of the world and road tripping from one side of the country to the other. You don't really know what the purpose of their journey is until they get there. And as they get there, you're meeting other couples and other families who are also experiencing the end of the world. It is very interesting and touches on many different subjects, and I highly recommend. This was my first TJ Klune book. It definitely made me intrigued to pick up his other books because I really did enjoy this one. Seventh question is, who is your newest favorite author, debut or new to you? The Keeper of Lost Children by Sadiqa Johnson was one of my favorite books of the year as well. Absolutely loved the way that Sadiqa wrote. She was also the author of Yellow Wife and House of Eve, which are definitely books and historical fictions that I'm going to put on my TBR for this year and next year. I really, really loved the way that she wrote. It was so immersive, very digestible, and still really gave a lot of historical context that made you want to learn more about that time period, and I couldn't ask for more from a historical fiction book. And then a debut author that is new to me and someone that I now know and love is Yoshigane Sakura and The Midnight Taxi, the book that I shared previously. I love that book. I fell in love with Yosha herself, and then also just the way that she writes is so, it just made me feel really seen, and I really enjoyed her work. And then question number 8 is, who is your newest fictional crush? And this is definitely going to be recency bias because I have like less than 20 pages left of this book, but Wes from The Misconnection has my absolute heart right now. I have been craving a Tia Williams romance, and she is delivering with this one. I'm absolutely obsessed with her male main characters and the way she writes them. They feel like they're a savior to women who aren't even asking for a savior, and that is the type of romance that I love to see. So I'm a big fan of Wes right now. Question number 9 is, who is your newest favorite character? And the answer to me is also probably a recency bias, but it is Susan from Long Island Girls by Gabrielle Korn. Susan is the main character in Gabrielle Korn's latest book, Long Island Girls. I am a Long Island girl, and Susan is our female main character who is based within this time period of being a teenager in 2005, and we follow her for up to a decade after that, where she's discovering herself and exploring her sexuality and what she wants out of life, and that's intertwined with this beautiful sapphic romance of this woman that kind of like keeps on coming back into her life, but as a reader you're trying to figure out whether or not this woman is a good influence or a bad influence on Susan. And I really related to Susan because I felt like it was easy to understand a teenage girl who like was just confused by the intentions of the people around her. And then also I just really loved Gabrielle's writing. I listened to the audiobook of Long Island Girls, and I just really loved the way that she wrote characters like easy to empathize with, different parts of like the character that you liked and different parts of the character that you didn't like. It just made me feel really seen, and I just enjoyed it. I also obviously loved the Long Island setting. There were a lot of Easter eggs about growing up on Long Island, and that was something that I enjoyed. I also loved the indie music aspect. Susan is a teenager who grows up loving indie music and like going to rock shows on the island, which was something I can relate to. And then also she finds a career within the indie music scene, which I thought was really interesting and something I loved. So So highly recommend if you haven't read Long Island Girls. It is a new release and I loved it and I loved the audiobooks. So definitely recommend. Question number 10 is, what is a book that made you cry this year? And I have two, of course. The first being The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. Absolutely love this book. It is not only gorgeous, but it is so beautifully written. Shen Tao does such a beautiful job of helping you empathize with a character who probably really does not deserve our empathy, but she is so good at helping you see different sides of someone who definitely is like not doing nice things to our female main character. So many beautiful aspects of this book. I can't wait to see what else Shen Tao comes out with. And then another book along the same vein that made me cry was Red City by Marie Lu. Just so many emotions with this one. It was so good. Like, I cannot wait for the second book, but yes. So many emotions. There was a lot that went into this book, a lot of heartbreak, and something I think about quite often, to be honest. So yeah, those two definitely made me cry. What is the book that made you the most happy? And I think right now my answer is going to be 1 Week Later by KJ Michike. I absolutely love KJ's work, and it was just really cool. KJ is a Long Island author who is also in my book club. So it's just really cool to read KJ's writing on page, but also know her as a human and as a person. And it was a 5-star read for me. I recommend if you're looking for a beach read with a little bit more grit and heart. It is hard to read, anticipatory grief and just grief on the page. And yeah, there's so many layers of that book that I really enjoyed. So 1 Week Later by KJ Michike. Love her writing, and I highly recommend that book. Now we're getting down to the wire. The second to last question number 12, is what is the most beautiful book you've bought or received? And I have a few that I pulled off my shelves. The first being The Poet Empress. Again, I don't know if you can tell, but there's like shininess to the front cover. And then there's like these gilded edges. It's really gorgeous. I have this displayed prominently on my bookshelf because I just can't get over how beautiful it is. In and out, if I may add. And then another book that is on my shelf that I acquired in this past year is Tusk Love. I have this wedding copy that I think I bought at BookCon or Comic-Con, one or the other. And it's just really gorgeous. I haven't read it yet, which I really feel like I should because it's a cozy fantasy. It's such a beautiful cover. I think it's really cozy and cute and something that I definitely want to read soon. And then my last one is a recent buy, which is Summer Slasher by E.L. Chen. This book comes like a little VCR, which is very reminiscent of the Geneva Rose book that also came like a VCR from Barnes & Noble. It's also just like a fun and twisty tribute to the 1980s cult films of horror. I showed this to Steph from Steph's reading it, and she's like, oh, that's just like the Geneva Rose cover from Barnes & Noble. And I didn't even clock that because I don't have that book, but I really wanted this one. I've been wanting to read it. It's so reminiscent of like everything I love about summer movies. So I grabbed this one and I'm really excited to read it. And we are at our last and final question of the mid-year book freakout tag. And that question is, what books do you need to read before the end of the year? And this answer would be really simple if I did a 12 of 2026 or 26 picks for 2026, but I did none of that, surprisingly. So I kind of just went through my shelves and picked books that I really do want to read and some things that I have been neglecting. So let's get into it. The first is getting back to my backlist. So last year I made a pretty good dent on wanting to read the backlist of one of my favorite authors, who is Riley Sager. I'm a horror thriller fan, so I don't think that's a huge surprise. Last year, I read Home Before Dark and House Across the Lake. I think I read those all last year, and I haven't read one Riley Sager book this year yet. So this one sounds the most unique and very summery, which is Middle of the Night. I think this book is like a year or 2 years old, but it's something I definitely want to read. So this is something I will probably bump up on my summer TBR. And then another book being Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thompson. I was lucky enough to interact with Aiden Thompson at a BookCon prep event earlier this year, and I just fell in love with him. He's such a fun personality, and his second book comes out in September of this series. So I really would like to read this summer so that I can be prepped for the new book coming out. And you guys know I'm a Tia Williams fan, so The Perfect Fine is a book that I have envisioned a perfect vlog for, where I read this book, talk about my thoughts as I've never read this Tia Williams book before, and then I watch the Gabrielle Union movie and also give you my thoughts on that. So that is a plan that I have for this book. And then the next two books are series books. Sabaa Tahir, Everybody knows and loves her. An Ember in the Ashes has been on my shelf along with the second book in the series for a while. So I definitely want to read this because she has a new release this year and I want to support her, but I also can't justify buying a book where I haven't read any of the books in the series. So this is a book that I'm really looking forward to reading. Everyone has nothing but amazing things to say about it, so I want to get to it. And then the last book is one that I am really excited about, but like I'm kind of hesitant, and that is Carl's Doomsday Scenario, which is the second book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I have read the first book. I talk about it all the time as if I've read all the books in the series. My friend T Reads for Fun is literally on book 3 or 4. When I talk to her about how much I love the series, she's like gone and past me, so I have to catch up. I read the first book in October. It is now June, so girl, like come on. I'm definitely going to try to read this by the end of the year. I can't say summer, but I'm definitely going to try to read this by the end of the year. It just seems so intimidating. There are now like 8 books, so I like have so much to do, and it's exciting because I do think these are so fun, but I definitely want to read this before the end of the year. So that is my mid-year book freakout tag. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I have a little bit more of the misconnection to get through. Hope to get through it so that I can give you my final thoughts before we end and maybe squeeze in one more read before July. But I've been wanting to read A Plagued Sea, which is a short novella, and that comes out in August, and I'm thinking I have the audio and the physical of that. I could do like a quick immersive read tomorrow. So after I finish this today, I'm gonna decide with you before we part ways. So TBD. We are back to talk about Miss Tia. We finished the misconnection. I love our male main character. He is like everything you want in a male main character. I think this is where Tia really shines, where it's like female main character is strong and independent on her own, but still sees space and where like a partner can fill needs that are just being not met by herself, and not even like in a spicy way, but more in like being supported by a partner and being supported by another person that you can always fulfill on your own. And I think that Tia really does a good job of establishing a partner in our male main character where there is like it complements her main character and doesn't take away from her independence. And I think that's exactly the balance between Wes and Sasha in this book, and I just love it. There's definitely a special place in my heart for this one. I recommend it if it's like a travel read. This is a great beach read. It's very bingeable. I really enjoyed the banter and the spiciness, and again, just like the classic Tia humor that I get from her books, it just like makes me happy, and I absolutely loved this. And then a little bonus read that I finished out the month of June with was A Plagued Sea by Kimbo Young. This is an arc that comes out in August. I think it's August 14th. This is a horror novella. Definitely for my horror people. It is not horror. It is a book that is kind of hard to explain now that I'm talking about it. It is a book about an aunt and a niece. The niece is being like babysat by the aunt for a short period of time, and then while they're together, this pandemic like outbreak happens. I listened to it mainly on the audiobook, and then I read some of it when I wasn't listening. This is a translated fiction from Korean from Tor Nightfire. So this was interesting. It kind of felt like if you watch It Is the End. Oh my God. What is that show with freaking Pedro Pascal that I freaking love and I don't even know the name of it? Us Until the End? You know why? It's because when, not gonna spoil it, but when something big happened, I wanted to stop watching The Last of Us. It is like The Last of Us, where like there's something happening. You see all of the trials and tribulations. The Haiwan village being isolated and like spoken about in such a degrading way was reminiscent of like all of the cultural and racial ties to how Asian Americans and Asians in general felt, I assume, during the pandemic, with a lot of like Asian hate crimes happening in New York City. And that is like a takeaway from this book that I felt was like pretty chilling and kind of spoke to the feelings that came up for me when reading Bat Eater and Other Names for Corzing. So this is definitely a horror novella that gives you a little bit more food for thought, which is what I love about horror, because at the end of the day, horror is a vehicle to talk about the things in a way that we don't always get to talk about them. And I really appreciated that about this book. I will say it's a bit of a fever dream. So like, if you're not into like not that like cut and dry type of horror, then this might not be the book for you. But I love horror that says more than what you think it's going to say. And that is why I picked this up. And that is why I loved this. So it was a nice little like end cap to my June, especially after reading The Misconnection. Sometimes after reading romance, I need something that's a little bit of more of a heavy hitter. So I enjoyed this. And those were the 2 books that I rounded out June with. And then a book that I just got in the mail is Embrace by Bal Cabra. Bal writes the Off the Ice series, which includes Collide, Spiral, Revolve, and now Embrace is the 4th book in the series. Berkeley sent this to me through the Berkeley Hub for Underrepresented Voices, so I'm really excited to get this. This book comes out on August 4th. It is the 4th book in the series. This book focuses on an unexpected spark between a hockey player and the coach's daughter might cause them to cross the line. It sounds scandalous. I love the cover. Our main characters look so up my alley. I love the tattoos. I love the books. Hello. And we're in our hockey romance era coming off campus. I've read 2 of the books. I've read Collide and Spiral. I don't think I'm going to read Revolve before reading Embrace because I imagine they are standalones in some sense. Like I don't think you have to read all of them in order because they focus on different couples. So I'm going to read this one first because it's here and it comes out on August 4th. So put it on your TBR if you're interested. And I had to show you this beautiful artwork that's on the front page. Look how cool that is. I haven't seen like a front page like this within the book ever. So I feel like that's really cool. It's like a little included overlay, which is very cool. Thank you, Berkeley, for sending this to me. I'm excited to read it. And by the way, if you are a bookstagrammer or a booktuber, you should definitely check out the Berkeley Hub for Underrepresented Voices. Berkeley Hub does this hub every quarter, where if you are a reader who posts reviews, you can apply, especially if you're from underrepresented communities, Asian American or LGBTQ, or you have a chronic illness, like any of those underrepresented voices are able to apply. And, you know, if there's a book that speaks to an underrepresented community that you identify with, then you have the ability to be an early reader for that book. So Bal is a South Asian author. I am South Asian, Indo-Caribbean. So I was able to get my hands on that book before it released, which is really exciting. And the last thing that I wanted to talk to you all about before I let you go is my July TBR. We are in the middle of a heat wave here in New York, and I'm trying to figure out what books to take with me as I get ready for a little pool afternoon. It's a light guide. I'm not giving myself too much pressure because at the end of the day, summer is about socializing and having fun and all the things. And sometimes summer months are my slowest reading months because we're so busy being outside and doing all of these fun things with family members and friends. And I wanted to give myself a guideline, kind of like a mood TBR. So I have 3 books that I want to read at some point over the summer. And then I have 2 books that I'm currently reading and about 4 books that I want to read in July. So let me show you them. Okay, so the 2 books that I'm currently reading, first one is Fabulous Bodies by Chuck Tingle. This is such a fun read. This is my first Chuck Tingle read. I love the style so far. It very is much representative of who he shows up as in the space. And I love that. So I'm reading this one currently. And then another one that I'm reading is Selfish by Carrie Doherty. I attended a virtual book club with Carrie this week. I am about 65% through with this one. I've been listening to the audiobook mostly. This book is a tell-all from Carrie about motherhood. She is the wife and founder of a clothing brand called Faraday. Talks about her marriage. She talks about motherhood. There are a lot of topics that she touches on. So yeah, that's what I'm currently reading. Fabulous Bodies and Selfish. And then some of my must reads in July start with Dolly All the Time. I'm really excited to read Dolly All the Time because it'll be my first book by Annabelle. And then on a very different note, I will be reading Burn Down Master's House by Clay Kane. This book is my Book Spines and Shorelines book pick this month. This is something that has been on my TBR for a while. I was able to grab it at the library, so I'm looking forward to reading it. This book is a book that I'm reading with my cousins for my cousins book club that meets at the end of this month. And we're reading The Summer Pact by Emily Giffin, a group of friends that make a pact in the wake of tragedy that will cause them to reunite a decade later and embark upon a life-changing adventure together. I have 3 books that I would like to get through this summer. These are like my loose mood summer TBR books. The first one being one that is staring at me every day on my bookshelf because the cover is so pretty. And that is The Summer Girlfriend by Christina Forrest. And then the second book that I have got sent to me last year, but it sounds like a good slow burn summer mystery. It is The Undercurrent by Sarah Sawyer. And then the last one is one that I picked up last week, which is Slasher Summer by E.L. Chen. I just love a fun summer movie. Like, I Know What You Did Last Summer. This gives all the the vibes of that mixed with Scream. And I love reading that. So I thought that these three would just be like a nice mix of something to pick up outside of my monthly TBR when I'm feeling like I need a little taste of summer. I loved spending this time with you through the missed connection and talking about all of the things. I know this weekend vlog got a little extended, but I hope that you enjoyed it. And I always appreciate you for rocking with me. If you are new to my channel, thank you for being here. I will be in touch about all of my thoughts about these reads. And until then, I will see you in my next one. Bye.